Welcome to Open House with Gerry Cornejo, where we feature people, places, and things that are in the news or who should be in the news. And definitely sa headlines po ngayon, it's been in the headlines for the past couple of weeks. And this is a very hot topic. It's called EDCA. Hindi po EDSA, EDCA. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Ayan, ha? Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. This is where, well, at least to my knowledge, pero ang guest po natin, he's an expert on this and he'll give the details. Pero as far as I understand it from the newspapers, ito po ay ang nagsanib ang puwersa ng Pilipinas, ang armed forces, as well as the armed forces of the United States, where they were given access to our military bases, as well as bibigyan yata sila ng mga areas kung saan din sila pwede magtayo ng sarili nila mga bases. And ang pagkaalam ko, walang rental ito, libre ito, baka tayo pa yata magbayad sa kanila. Now, there have been many issues here. Well, obviously, although you have to read between the lines, this EDCA came about because of our problems with our neighboring brother Chinese dyan po sa West Philippine Sea. No? Nagkaroon po ng problema yan sa Ayungin Shoal, sa Spratlys, and other areas, di ba? And so, feeling ng marami, binubuli tayo ng the Chinese by using their superior military might. So, ang perception ngayon ay ang Pilipinas naman, teka muna, hindi ba? Meron tayong kabarkadang malakas din sa military, probably the biggest and the best in the world, which is the armed forces of the United States. So, nagkaroon ng agreement. Now, they say this is because of to avoid conflicts. Ngayon, pwedeng magnet to conflicts, pwedeng deterrent, which we'll talk about later on. But, ang guest po natin ngayon, former Bayan Muna Representative Teddy Casiño, recently nag-file po ng petition, tawag ba ron? Petition sa Supreme Court to question the constitutionality of the EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement between the Philippines and the United States. Unahin po na natin muna yung constitutionality. Later on, we will involve several people here. We also have a guest, Mr. Paulo Aguado. We'll be talking about, is it a magnet or deterrent? And I also have I talked to several people personally, tsaka mga iba po ay nag-text to give their opinions. Deterrent or magnet? In other words, will it be a deterrent towards military conflict sa West Philippine Sea or magiging magnet? Ganon. Sige, away-away na. Okay, Mr. Teddy Casiño, welcome po ulit. Suki po natin ito.
Magandang gabi po sa lahat.
Okay, Teddy, ano itong final nyo sa Supreme Court questioning the constitutionality of EDCA? What is the essence of this all?
Well, before we go to the petition, tingnan muna natin ano ba yung esensya ng EDCA.
Okay.
It's basically an agreement para ibalik ang military bases ng Amerikano sa Pilipinas in a very low-cost, flexible, and quite expansive manner. No, kasi iba na ang klase ng gera ngayon, iba na rin klaseng mga military facilities ang kailangan. So basically, it's a return of the US bases. And maraming constitutional issues, but I think one of the strongest constitutional issues is that hindi kasi pwede mangyari yan na ibabalik mo ang base militar ng dayuhang bansa nang hindi dadaan sa isang tratado.
Treaty?
Treaty.
Okay.
No? Now, the EDCA is not a treaty.
Okay.
Ang sabi nila, it is a mere executive agreement.
Okay.
And ang treaty daw talaga is the Mutual Defense Treaty, which does not mention in any way or in any manner military facilities.
Mutual defense? How can you have defense without military?
It's basically just pag-state lang ito ng commitment na kapag ikaw ay ginera, pwede akong sumaklolo sa iyo.
Kung gusto ko.
Kung gusto mo. Siyempre, but of course. Historically, never naman sumaklolo sa atin ng Estados Unidos.
Historically?
In our conflicts with Malaysia, in our conflicts with China, US has never really interfered. buti pa sila nakikinabang sa atin eh. Pag may gera sila sa Korea, nandun tayo. Pag may gera sila sa Vietnam, nandun tayo. Even Iraq and Afghanistan, nandun tayo eh.
Tayong sumaklolo sa kanila during the Second World War.
Ayun na nga.
Tayo ang palangga nila.
The MDT was after the Second World War.
Okay.
So anyway, yun yung, I think that is a very strong issue of constitutionality na hindi ito dumaan sa tratado. No? At kailangan, for such an agreement na ibabalik mo ang US military troops and facilities, it has to be a treaty. Pangalawa, hindi na nga tratado, masyado pang dehado ang Pilipinas. Alam mo, nabanggit mo kanina, walang renta. Hindi lang yan. Walang taxes when it comes to their public utilities. The Philippines is actually obligated kapag ni-request ng Estados Unidos ang access nila sa isang lugar, whether public or private, ang nakalagay dun sa provisions ng EDCA, the Philippines shall provide this access.
Okay.
Libre ang radio spectrum. No?
Which means?
Pwede silang mag-operate ng kanilang telecommunications facilities ng libre. Alam natin, napakamahal at pinag-aagawan ng mga telcos itong spectrum na ito, but pinamimigay ito ng libre. So all these, no, even the security, no, at yung maintenance ng mga areas around these bases, these agreed locations tawag nila, sagot ng Pilipinas yan.
Excuse me, let's get back to this. So which means, hindi nila base ito, parang bisita natin sila sa mga base militar natin.
But operational control is
operation of their own forces.
Of the agreed location.
Pati under nila pati mga...
Ang binibigay lang sa Philippine Authority is access. But that access has to pass through their security and yung mga protocols nila. Samantalang, yung mga military troops and contractors, kasama dito yung contractors, hindi lang yung formally part ng Armed Forces of the United States, but they're military contractors, sinasubcontracta kasi ang gera ngayon. Anyway, kasama yon, they have what they call unimpeded access. No? They have operational control from construction hanggang sa deployment ng forces, etc. So, it's basically a US base. Pero dahil gusto nilang paikutin yung constitutional requirement, pinalalabas nila, it's a Philippine base. Pero alam naman natin sa Clark and Subic, Philippine flag nga ang nakalipad dyan for a long time. But it's basically a US base. So, para sa amin yun. And talagang dehadong-dehado. Ano ang pakinabang ng Pilipinas? Ang sabi nila, modernization of the AFP. But nowhere in the EDCA itself, nowhere in the agreement does it state na may ganyang commitment. No? Meron, kapag hindi na kailangan ng US yung kanilang equipment, pwedeng ibigay sa Pilipinas, pero may issue ng compensation. So, babayaran mo rin.
Okay.
So, ang bottom line yan, mauulit yung nangyari nung nakaraan. Nandito sila. We get the second-hand equipment. Yung mga used nila na hindi na pinapakinabangan, yun ang ibibigay sa Pilipinas. And then, ang sinasabi ng gobyerno, ang pakinabang daw ng Pilipinas dito is the deterrence against China.
Okay.
Yun siguro ang para sa akin, that is debatable because when President Obama was here, he could not even make a commitment tungkol dyan sa dispute with China. Ano ang sabi niya? We are not here to contain China. We have enormous trade, enormous economic relations with China, and we do not want to disturb that relation.
Pero yun na yun, Teddy eh. Like for instance, let's say, alam ko, magkaibigan na kayo ng Pilipinas, ikaw Pilipinas, kita ko, kaibigan mo na ngayon ng Amerikano, nagsasama-sama na kayo. Hindi na kita basta-basta aawayin.
Pero...
Di ba? Hindi na kita basta-basta aawayin.
Pero sino ba kaibigan ng China?
Sino?
Magkano ang utang ng US sa China?
Okay.
$1.28 trillion.
Trillion, mas marami pa nga reserve nila kaysa sa Amerika eh.
Magkano investments ng US sa China? More than $500 billion ang investments sa China. Dito sa Pilipinas, magkano lang ang trade natin? I think it's 18-19 billion.
So that's
sino
why.
Sino talaga kaibigan dito? Kaya sabi nga ni Obama, nung tinanong siya ng media, ipagtatanggol niyo ba ang Pilipinas sa China? Sabi niya, we are not here to contain China. We have enormous trade, economic relations with China. Hindi namin yan ipagpapalit para lang sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Although hindi naman niya sinabi directly ganyan. But that is the implication. So, the US has always maintained that it will not interfere in any maritime dispute between the Philippines and China. Anong habol ng base ng US dito sa Pilipinas? Yung strategic interest nila, yung strategic political, military interest nila, like keeping the sea lanes open.
Okay, you mean it is so one way na wala tayong ka-advantage as in 99% advantage America, 1% atin or 0 atin? Anong tingin mo? If you can put it down into percentages. Ano ang ganong kalaki ang lamang ng Amerika sa benepisyo sa EDCA, itong Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement?
Well, military supply siguro yung mga second-hand materials.
Okay.
Yung mga cutters na yan, pinaglumaan.
Okay.
So that's probably part of the 1%.
So
Yung,
1% lang, do you agree? It's 99 to 1?
Oo.
99%
Yeah, I
to
think,
1?
well, mahirap naman i-quantify. Pero
Ah.
it's basically lopsided in favor of the US. Yung rest and recreation, siguro, yung mga nightclub dyan, yung mga karinderya dyan, tuwing merong bases, may konting negosyo dyan. But even the war materials na ipe-preposition nila dun sa kanilang mga bases, these are for the exclusive use of US forces.
Okay.
No? These are totally exclusively under the control of US forces. Kasi base nga talaga
Yeah,
nila yan.
to me it makes sense na
And
ganun.
yung problema talaga ng maraming nag-host ng military bases, foreign military bases is one, nagiging dahilan yan sa pakikialam ng Estados Unidos sa internal affairs ng bansang yan. And of course, magiging jump-off point tayo for their military operations in the region. Katulad nung nandito yung sa Clark and Subic, yung gera nila sa Iraq, dito nanggaling yan, gera nila sa Vietnam, yung gera nila sa Korea. So yun ang malaking pakinabang sa kanila, and the only pakinabang na talagang hinahype ng gobyerno, yung China nga. But again, I think, alam mo, kapag ikaw ay binuli, no, at nagdala ka ng sarili mong kaibigang bully para labanan yung nagbubuli sa'yo.
Hindi, para wag kang ibuli.
Oo, para wag kang ibuli. Ang problema kung magkaibigan yung dalawang bully.
Ay, hindi naman.
Eh, di kawawa ka.
I
mean,
don't-
they can, pwede naman sila magkaayos eh.
Pero remember,
so, ang Pilipinas, masasangkalan ngayon, magagamit tayo ng Estados Unidos for their own strategic military interest.
matagal na tayong ginagamit.
Ayun na nga eh.
Ever since.
And it's going to get worse. And
No, it can only get better.
oh.
It can only, ginagamit na naman kayo. Halika, may basag ulo dito, sumama ka sa
Ngayon
amin.
tingin ko naman, itong problema sa China, we can approach it in a manner na hindi mo ibebenta, isi-sell out yung sovereignty mo eh.
Okay.
I mean, bringing the issue to the UNCLOS is a very good move. At matagal na natin pinupush yan.
Ayaw kilalanin ng
Siyempre, China. But, ang China very conscious din yan sa public opinion.
Okay.
Itong engagement natin sa ASEAN, engagement natin sa maraming mga international venues, you can never underestimate the power of diplomacy and yung political pressure, yung pressure ng international community. Malaking bagay yan eh. Pwede naman yan ang i-maximize natin eh. And not rely on the global power to defend yourself.
In my opinion, we've exhausted that. I mean, you've been in 2 congresses na nagkakaroon ng conflict na with China, di ba? Dalawang 6 years during your 6 years, your last 6 years out of your. By the way, si Congressman Teddy Casiño, senior na po yan, member ng Congress. 9 years, you can't get over 9 years, di ba? Kaya he had to leave for a while, go for the Senate, and maybe we shall see him again either sa Senado or sa Congress ito pong darating ng mga taon. Pero recently, nakikita po natin siya na inaaresto ng mga pulis during a demo.
Parliament of the streets.
Back to the Parliament of the streets. We have Mr. Teddy Casiño. We're talking about EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Is it constitutional or not? Is it a deterrent or magnet? We'll be back right after this. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Open House with Gerry Cornejo, where we feature people, places, and things that are in the news or who should be in the news. And by the way, let me remind you, we air nationwide and in 7 Asian countries via Global Destiny Cable TV, Sky Cable, GSAT Channel 1, and streaming on www.gnntv-asia.com. Okay? Sa sa Global Destiny, we are on GNN Channel 8. Sa Sky, we are in 213, GSAT Channel 1. Okay, so wherever you are, kahit ano pong panig ng mundo kayo, as long as meron po kayong internet, you can watch and listen to this program. And we're talking about the controversial EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement between the Philippine government and the United States government. And with us in this program is former Bayan Muna Party List Representative Teddy Casiño, who very recently, together with, sino bang kasama mo rito? Nag-file kayo ng petition sa Supreme Court?
Well, yung former Senators Rene Sagisag
okay.
and Bobby Tanyada, our fellow petitioners.
Yes.
Yung anak ni former Senator Salonga, si Attorney Steve Salonga is there. Si Sister Mary Jan Mananzan,
Yes.
Roland Simbulan is expert on
Isang
the
ano lang yan o hiwalay kayo nag-file?
isang ano po yan, isang petition. yan
okay,
po.
one petition,
Opo.
okay.
Si Dean Pacifico Agabin of College of Law of I think Lyceum yata siya.
Okay.
Attorney Harry Roque, Attorney Edre Olalia, Evelyn Ursua, si Carol Arroyo of Bayan is there. So itong mga, you have former senators, you have academicians, you have from the religious groups, mga activists, who all believe that this is unconstitutional and that it is sellout of our sovereignty. And of course, it makes the Philippines, specifically itong mga bases na itatayo ng Estados Unidos, a magnet for attack ng mga kaaway ng Estados Unidos.
So, hindi tayo atake ng China, magkaibigan yung dalawa.
Magkaibigan naman yung dalawa. China can always tell the US. Di ba, yung ginagawa niya ngayon dyan sa may Spratlys, they're reclaiming land. Sasabihin lang ng China sa US, Bok, huwag ka na makialam dito. Kami this is a maritime dispute between the Philippines and the US. Hayaan mo kaming ayusin to. Huwag ka na makialam. No? And I don't think the US will use their armed forces para bawiin yung islang yon.
Hindi naman.
Ang sasabihin lang naman ng US dyan, daan nyo sa tamang proseso.
Yun. I'm all
kahit
for
wala
that.
namang base militar ng Estados Unidos, yun din naman nasasabihin.
Ayaw ng China
At yun ang i-advise ng US.
Ayaw ng China I mean, hindi sila naniniwala sa UNCLOS. And besides,
But if there are, at yun nga, kaya hindi lang US if there are many countries, yung ASEAN neighbors natin, and all the other countries who are part of the UNCLOS, will tell China, wag naman ganyan, no? Idaan natin sa tamang proseso. Let's go through the process.
sabi na nga nila,
yun na magiging effective, hindi naman yung
Hindi, pero sabi na nga nila, ayaw namin. Tayo lang, bilateral, tayo mag-usap. Hindi kasama yung iba. Tsaka isa nga pala, hindi signatory ng UNCLOS ang Amerika.
yung pa, sabihin ng China, sasabihin mo, sumunod kami sa UNCLOS, kayo nga, hindi pumipirma dyan.
Hindi lang pumirma, pero sumusunod sila.
Well,
di ba? Iba yung signatory, di ba? I mean, that's a technical thing. But by the way, UNCLOS, yung United Nations Conference on the Law of the Sea, it's a treaty and hindi po signatory ang Amerika dyan for whatever reason. Siguro gives them the elbow room na kung magkagulo in the Pacific or anywhere, di ba, pinag-aawayan, pwede silang pumasok na, di ba, hindi kami signato. Pag-usapan na lang natin. But anyway.
Pero alam mo, at the end of the day, pag-uusapan talaga yan. Pero ang importante lang, because of these diplomatic efforts, we put pressure on China na wag magpaka-hardline. At makita nila na yung kanilang 9-dash claim is really absurd. At hindi papasa yun sa kahit na anong international venue, international tribunal or anything. So, yun, malaking bagay yun. And I think mas mahalaga pa yan kaysa sa papayagan mo magtayo ng base militar ang Estados Unidos.
Hindi, pero Teddy, I mean, I don't know if they're just saber-rattling ang China. Pero sinabi na nila hindi kami sasali dyan. Magdemanda kayo, sue us. But, walang mangyayari dyan. Tayo mag-usap, pag-usapan natin to, pwede natin pag-usapan. Pero, itong tanong itong bottom line, this is what is all in the back of our minds. This is the foundation of the whole thing. Palagay mo ba, may possibility na magkaroon talaga ng gera ang China at Pilipinas? Wag na natin sa Amerika. With the current situation, with the conflict in those areas, I mean, you were in Congress. I'm sure you were privy to some security briefings. Ano ba sabi nila? Meron ba talagang possibility na magka-gera talaga? O, wala tayong kalaban-laban, of course, pero may possibility ba?
Well, kung, there will always, anything is possible no,
Oo.
sa ganyang sitwasyon.
Yeah.
But I think it is remote.
Very remote.
I think wala sa interest ng China na makipaggera sa kapitbahay niyang Pilipinas. Wala rin sa interest ng Pilipinas na makipaggera. It is in no one's interest. And alam mo naman ang China, wala namang history yan ng pananakop dito even in the region, no? Unlike ang Estados Unidos pa nga sinakop tayo ng Estados
Imperialista
Unidos.
nga,
Oo,
imperialista.
ang China hindi kaya nga ang tawag diyan for a long time yung sleeping giant. But itong recent in the past few years, talagang napakalakas ng kanilang yung nationalist sentiment. Ang paliwanag sa atin ng ilang mga China experts, may kinalaman yan sa domestic politics nila.
Okay.
No? Because of the conflicts within the Communist Party, medyo may paksyon-paksyon dyan at nagpapasiklaban sila. No?
Okay.
And they also have to keep yung loyalty ng Chinese Liberation Army, People's Liberation Army. So may mga ganyang dynamics din yan. So, posibleng magbago rin pag nagkaroon ng pagbabago ng liderato or any developments in the domestic front. So para sa akin, hindi ako nangangamba na magkakaroon ng shooting war dyan.
Okay.
But definitely China has always been saying na amin niya South China Sea. Pero pwede gawin ng Pilipinas dyan, yung katulad ng nangyari sa mga poachers. Pag nanghuli ng mga illegal na mga marine resources sa ating economic zone, edi hulihin natin.
Okay.
And then maghabol ang China. So, there are many things we can still do
Okay.
na hindi nagre-rely sa Estados Unidos para protektahan tayo.
Okay. Before we leave this topic, gusto nyong ang grupo nyo or there's a faction in Philippine society that wants to declare this unconstitutional, itong EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, to declare it unconstitutional. Ano bang, are you just doing this as an exercise or you really think you're going to succeed?
Well, we think there are very strong grounds
Okay.
para i-declare ito unconstitutional. Ang bottom line dito ayaw na natin bumalik doon sa sitwasyon na tayo ay dinidiktahan at pinapakialaman dahil may mga military bases and facilities ang Amerikano dito. Alam naman natin ang Amerikano, they are here for their own economic, political interests. No? And sentimental feelings aside, talagang ano lang yan, lamangan ng laro dyan. No? At dito sa EDCA, nalabangan tayo ng sobra. Ang gusto natin, ang Pilipinas ay makatayo sa sarili niyang paa. No? And not have to rely on another bully to fight the bully in the schoolyard.
Okay. Question. So, this could be a question or a statement. So, ang tingin nyo, that your group and the faction of society, nakakausapin natin mamaya kasama si Paulo, itong EDCA na ito, bakit kaya ginawa ng ito? Bakit kaya ginawa ng ating gobyerno? Why did President Noynoy Aquino, his cabinet, of course, andyan ang DND, bakit nila pinasukan yan? I mean, ganun ba sila tanga? No, really. I mean, di ba? I mean, it boils down to stupid. How stupid are you? I mean, palagay na natin, 95% panig sa Amerika, 5 lang ang atin. Ba't kayo pumayag ng ganyan? I mean, is it a matter of stupidity or what is it? What is it behind this decision to have EDCA? Sa palagay mo?
Tingin ko, ang tingin nila na ang Estados Unidos ang tagapagtanggol ng Pilipinas.
So hindi yung katangahan ba 'yon o wishful thinking
yung
or
colonial mentality that we have always had, no?
Okay.
Na sa Estados Unidos tayo aasa, no? And if we want to modernize the armed forces, ipasok natin ng US. Kung gusto natin labanan ng China, ipasok natin ng US. Yung ganyang mentalidad, no? Ng yung colonial looking up to the colonizer. Malalim 'yan no? And it's an easy way out kasi sa halip na pauunlarin mo yung ekonomiya mo para i-develop mo yung sarili mong armed forces and you have an independent foreign policy, sumandal ka na lang dito sa bossing, sa
Okay,
siga.
question. Yung mga leftist groups, Of course,
And probably
oh,
last lang, ano,
oh.
I think they take hook, line, and sinker
Mm.
yung ideology ng Amerikano, itong neoliberal ideology,
Mm.
no, na yung free markets, ah, yung yung electoral democracy for the sake of electoral democracy. Yun ang ano yun ang agenda ng Estados Unidos dito yung opening up the markets, it's a kind of development na nakikinabang basically yung malalaking korporasyon,
Yeah.
yung mga elitista sa iba't ibang bansa. Yun, I think pasok na pasok doon ang framework ng development ng gobyernong Aquino, and that's why they gravitate towards the United States, no, and its
Okay,
policies.
on the other hand, traditionally, yung mga makakaliwang grupo, and I'm not saying this in a negative way, ganun talaga. I mean, sa lahat ng gobyerno, may gitna, may kaliwa, may kanan. Ngayon, you have always been identified with the left. You're not a centrist. Okay, yung mga left naman has always been anti-America, anti-USA. In this sense, since merong identity yung communist movement with the leftist movement, are you more for China in this situation? Or, I mean, of course, you're pro-Philippines, period. Lahat tayo pro-Pilipinas. Pero if you had the choice, sino mas okay nakakampi? I mean, usapang barbero
Pero
na
alam mo,
America o China?
Alam mo, Jerry,
Yeah.
ang China hindi na communist It's a capitalist country.
Nagiging.
Hiding behind the Communist Party. Pero
Okay.
ang Communist Party dyan, pinapangalagaan yan, yung mga malalaking kapitalista na rin Sabi ko nga sino ba nagpapautang sa Estados Unidos? 1.28 trillion. It's China. No? So, wala na sa amin yung whether China is socialist or not. It's really a capitalist country. Pero ang usapin dito kung titingnan natin yung ating kasaysayan, sino ba ang sumakop sa Pilipinas? Sino ba ang nagtaksil sa ating mga revolutionary heroes? Sino ba ang ginawang malakolonya ang ating bansa? It's the United States. No?
Definitely, they have
And
caused more
China
harm.
has, alam mo naman, ang China, ang relasyon natin, panahon pa na nila lapu-lapu Bago pa yung mga Kastila. Ano na natin? Trading partners na natin yung mga
Kadugo
Chinese.
natin yan.
And even during the Arroyo administration, mas parang mas nilaro ng husto ni Ginang Arroyo yung Chinese card, So, nandyan lang naman yung mga Chinese, mga kapitbahay yan. But, yun na nga, I think it's not a choice of ang gusto ba natin in Chico Americano. Kung saan ang interest natin, kung saan tayo makikinabang, doon tayo.
So, as of
At ang
now,
problema ng China,
mas nakikinabang tayo sa Inchik
dahil
ngayon.
ang China, sinasakop yung ating exclusive economic zone, yung ating extended continental shelf. Definitely, we will oppose that and we will resist that. Pero sa ibang mga bagay, economic relations, cultural relations, maunlad na naman ang inabot ng ating relasyon.
Okay.
So, dapat medyo dynamic and very, ang treatment natin sa ating foreign,
All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about, is it a magnet to conflict, to military conflict dyan po sa pinag-aaway natin na Spratlys group of islands, or is it a deterrent to military conflict? Ito pong EDCA, the Enhanced Development, Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. When we come back, we're going to be discussing that. And joining us will be Mr. Paulo Aguado, who says it's a magnet. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Open House with Gerry Cornejo, where we feature people, places, and things that are in the news or who should be in the news. And now, we go into, sumali na rin kayo on your own, with I'm sure even family members, you have different opinions, okay? And I texted some friends and I'd like to mention their names. Tinanong ko kung magnet or deterrent, ang pag-ugnay ng United States and Philippine military in terms of EDCA, the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement. Andito na naman mga puwersa ng Amerikano, their Navy, their Air Force. They're going to be all over the Philippines. So, meron nagke-question, ang grupo ni na former Bayan Muna Party List Representative, Teddy Casiño, whether it's constitutional or not. Pero yon, ano na yon, let's leave it up to the Supreme Court. Pero ngayon, ang usapang bayan, usapang person to person, Pinoy to Pinoy is, ano ba ito, makakatulong or hindi? So far, I mean, within this room itself, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Lahat sila magnet. Ako lang po ang deterrent. But okay, let me read to you, Mr. Ramon Jacinto says, it's a deterrent. No-brainer. We cannot defend ourselves in any situation. We will also get more investments. Pag-usapan natin na mamaya. Mangyayari kaya yan? Okay, according to... teka muna. Kay Jojo Alehar, si Jojo, sabi niya, both ways because easily we can be dragged further into the U.S.-China feud, but deterrent of a possible territorial invasion from China or other nations for that matter, because they will think twice to move on a strong American ally. So deterrent yon, hindi magnet, di ba? And from Rod Cornejo, EDCA is American power, a reality in the planet. If it is China, we look at EDCA as a safety bumper. So sa kanya, deterrent. Okay? Another one who says deterrent is my neighbor who was just talking to earlier, Mr. Benji Magsino. He's the general manager of a Philippine sports company. And he says it is definitely a deterrent. Sabi ni Patrick Tulfo, deterrent. Okay? Ba, dumadami nga kakampi ko. Okay? But hopefully, sana we will never be able to prove who's right or who's wrong. Sana walang mangyari kasi magiging totoo lang ito kung may mangyari, hindi ba?
Well, ang problema nga dyan is that it will really depend on the United States whether it will be a deterrent or a magnet. Kasi,
No, China.
Hindi.
Oh.
Kasi base nila yan eh. No? Kapag sila ay, it can be a magnet, pag uminit halimbawa ang labanan ng China at ng Estados Unidos, that will be a magnet. Pag maganda naman ang samahan ng China at Estados Unidos at magrerespetuhan sila, eh pwede sabihin ng Estados Unidos, so hindi kami makikialam sa gulo niyo ng Pilipinas. So it will not be a deterrent. So yun nga ang problema dyan eh. Hindi naman natin hawak eh kung ano ang gagawin ng Estados Unidos dyan eh. They can either interfere or they can either sit back and just, bayaan mong, like they are doing now, naka-hands-off policy sila.
Okay.
So, yan eh, tama si Jojo tingin ko eh. It's either or. But, alam mo, kung titingnan mo kasi sino ba ang Pilipinas, sino ba ang kaaway ng Pilipinas historically? Wala naman tayong kaaway talagang bansa eh. Except Japan probably during the World War II. Ang maraming kaaway ang Estados Unidos eh. At lahat ng kaaway ng Estados Unidos, hindi lang China, no? Yung mas matinding mga kagerahan talaga nila sa Middle East, sa Europe, will always look at their facilities as potential targets. No? And in that sense, these are automatic built-in magnets for military.
I agree with
Okay.
you. I agree with you.
Before we listen to the opinion of, I just like to say, si Magdalena Boy Palacol also said that it is a magnet. Okay, si Magdalena Boy Palacol, former bank executive and is now an entrepreneur. Okay, Jose Paulo Aguado. Let's call him Paulo. Paulo, why do you say it's a magnet?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here.
And good morning, good evening. Lahat ng time zone
Good morning, good evening to everyone, wherever you are in the world.
Okay.
Well, actually, I agree with former Representative Teddy Casiño. I personally also agree with Jojo Alehar. I think that it could go either way. However, if you look at historical issues, if you think about it, we have the North Korea and then we have the South Korea. Now, that is a unsaid proxy war between China and the United States. So if you are basically looking at it as the Philippines is with the US and then China is doing what they want in our backyard, this could escalate. And honestly, for me, I look at it as a magnet.
Magnet.
Because China will never really fully accept the authority of the United States.
Okay.
They feel that they are whole on their own.
Pero friends yung dalawa eh. Hindi ba? I mean, their economic ties trumps our historical ties. Tama ba?
I don't doubt you on that. I don't doubt you.
Ha? So historical ties namin sa ano, di ba, ilang dekada na eh. Teka muna, meron bang umabot ba ng trillion?
Kumbaga, malalim ang laro ng mga yan,
Malalim,
eh.
di ba?
Actually,
Malalim.
the best way to put it is that they are frenemies.
Frenemies, ha?
Yes.
Pero hindi. I mean, to me, without the United States in the picture, no? Without the United States in the picture, ano nangyari so far? Hindi natin mabigyan ng pagkain yung these guys in the rotten, rusty ship, saan ba yun? Sa Spratlys, hindi ba? O sa Ayungin Shoal ba yun? Yung mga Navy men natin doon, hindi natin madala ng pagkain because dumadating yung mga Navy, hinaharang. So ang ginagawa, we even have to airdrop food there.
Yeah.
Okay. Ngayon, ano pang ginagawa? Winater cannon yung natin, yung mga mangingisda natin. Gumagawa sila ng blockade. Of course nga, wala nga nagpuputuhan so far. So far, thank God, it's only water cannons, di ba? But then, nagpakita na sila ng might. I mean, they put 12 huge ships there. So,
Pero ang tanong nga
oh,
yung mga ships ba ng China, bobombahin ba ng US yan?
okay.
Ang US ba maghahatid ng pagkain sa Ayungin?
Okay,
Hindi
we don't know that yet.
They will not do that. They will
Okay.
not, sinabi na nila yan eh.
Ah.
They will not interfere in the dispute. Ano lang ang habol ng US dyan? Keep the sea lanes open. As long as they
Okay.
do that, keep the sea lanes open, yun na yun. Wala silang pakialam kung
If
magbarilan
China
ng...
bullies us, if China says, no, you can't go in.
I mean, of course, they will magsasalita yan.
Yeah, they will say, hey China,
Oo, but at the end of the
maghunos-dili
day,
kayo, di ba?
but at the end of the day, ano yan, hindi nila awa yan eh. No, hindi naman sila makikialam dyan. And yun ang sinasabi natin, dun sa ilang nagsasabi na with the US there, magdadalawang isip ang China.
So hindi magdadalawang
Kasi
isip
ang
ang China.
they have their
Oh.
claim eh. Sasabihin
Okay.
nila, kaya nandyan ang US kayo wala. Amin to eh. So ito gagawin namin. And the only way na mapipigilan dyan, short of a shooting war,
Okay.
yung public, yung international pressure.
Okay.
And yun, hindi US yun. I think it is a whole group of countries na members of the UNCLOS who believe in the rule of law.
Okay.
Yun ang dapat natin i-harness. No? So, medyo nag-i-illusion tayong masyado na sasabihin natin na sasaklolohan tayo ng Estados Unidos pag medyo nagkainitan dyan sa disputed area.
Paulo, what do you say? Anong prediction mo? Ngayon meron ng EDCA. Now, the US Navy are gonna start bringing in their warships. Baka pumaparada-parada dyan yung papara-parada dyan yung mga aircraft carrier nila. Di ba? What do you predict? What's gonna happen? Status quo? Nothing? We're still going to have to airdrop food because haharangin tayo? I mean, what's gonna happen? Will the Chinese intensify their claim by force? Ano mangyari, Paulo?
Excuse me. I see that happening. I see China flexing their muscles and creating a more aggressive force in the upcoming months.
You should drink water first, Paulo.
Thank you.
Kasi,
Yan nga, yung escalation ang nakakatakot dyan.
Oh.
Yung escalation.
So you think there's going to be status quo or escalation? What do you think, Paulo?
I personally think China will flex their muscles.
Will escalate? Yung parang
will escalate.
ganon? Parang ganon?
Yeah.
Nagsama kayo ng Amerika? O eto?
Well, as Teddy had said, it's a claim.
Oh.
They have a valid claim. This has nothing to do with the U.S. and the Philippines.
No, they don't. You think they have a valid claim? So if you think they have a valid claim, umalis na lang tayo dyan. Huwag na lang tayo makipagulupan, di ba? I don't know. Is that your stand? They have a valid claim?
In their minds.
Okay.
In their minds.
Ikaw, valid bang claim nila?
No,
Palagay mo?
actually, medyo absurd nga yung claim ng China.
Absurd.
eh.
It's an absurd
Wala talagang naniniwala eh. Sila
Except
lang.
them.
Yeah.
Wala ba silang
Sila
ano bang
sila
stand ng na ba ng sina Putin ba tsaka to sina medyo meron na ba silang comment about what's going on? Wala pa.
Wala pa.
Wala
Kasi
pa.
nga,
Meron, well, they have their own thing in Ukraine.
kumbaga,
No.
nagre-respetuhan yung mga yan eh.
Okay.
Even the United States, wala naman sinasabi ang US tungkol sa maritime dispute eh.
Oo.
Ang sinasabi lang nila, wag tayong aabot sa dahas.
Okay.
But they will not make a statement kung sino ang tama dyan. Kasi nga dispute yan eh. No?
So-
And tama na dinala natin yung dispute doon sa ITLOS, yung
Okay.
International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea. Because yun ang pwedeng pag-usapan at yun ang medyo makakapag-decide.
And China is a member of that.
Oo, yes.
Okay, now do you think that nagkaroon na ng mga backdoor talk sa mga Chinese and American military na what's happening? You're now with the Philippines. Nagkakagano na siguro. Open naman ang communications ng the Chinese and the US military, no?
There's a possibility.
Ha? Na nag-uusap yung dalawa. Ano bang, are we gonna read between the lines or... Because if they read between the lines, ibig sabihin nun na, kumakampi ang, di ba? Kasi ang dali naman sabihin, China, halika, friends na lang tayo. Gumawa na lang kayo ng base rito sa Pilipinas. Magtayo kayo ng base militar dyan sa lupa namin. Spratly yan, amin yan. Pero pwede kayo magtayo ng military facilities dyan. Di ba?
Although that may sound like selling the country or throwing it under the bus, I do believe that that there could be some concessions made. Because sometimes, Gerry, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So if you ask me personally, I think that the Department of Foreign Affairs should step up their actions. I think they should really go out there and try to find different channels because I do believe there's always a way to fix things.
Pinapaayos na nga nila. Sina Gokong Wei, sina Henry C., sina George T., yung mga Taipan, di ba? Yung sila nga nag-ayos ng Hong Kong, di ba? Contribute kayo dyan, bayaran nyo yung mga...
Alam mo, Jerry, may kasabihan tayo, pera-pera lang naman yan eh.
True.
Ano bang pinag-aawayan dyan? Hindi naman, in fact, these are not islands.
Okay.
No, these are reefs and shoals.
Fishing grounds.
So, ano yan ilalim ng tubig. Wala ka naman itatayong base militar dyan or facilities.
Ginawa na ng Chinese.
But, ang habol talaga dyan are the resources. Rich fishing grounds.
Fish. Balik.
Oil and gas reserves. Yan ang medyo established dyan. Yan ang talagang pinaglalabanan dyan. And kung yan ang pag-uusapan, of course, it falls under the economic zone ng Pilipinas. Pwede naman talagang may may system of mutually beneficial joint use which respects the sovereignty of both countries.
Okay.
Yan ang medyo kaya sabi ko sa iyo ang bottom line diyan diplomacy Paano maabot yung formula na yan? Siyempre sa simula, kirian yan.
Okay.
Di ba? Pormahan yan. But at the end, paano ba natin tayong dalawang makikinabang dito?
Okay.
And yun yung...
so it's going to be a win-win
there
situation.
was an attempt during the Arroyo administration, yung tawag nilang Joint Marines, JMSU, Joint Marine Seismic Activity. Joint ito ng China, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Ito nag-aaway ngayon But there was actually a joint memorandum of understanding, a joint project ng oil exploration dyan. Kaya lang, ang problema dyan, kaya kinwestiyon namin sa Supreme Court, kasi masyadong binigay ng Pilipinas yung kahit na areas na hindi naman disputed, which are clearly ours, part of the territory, isinama doon sa area for joint use.
Okay.
Siguro kung yung disputed areas lang, pwede pa. Pero pati yung undisputed areas isinama. So sabi namin, unconstitutional yan.
Okay.
Kung doon, lalo na sa mga undisputed areas na atin talaga, ang masusunod dyan, yung constitution natin, hindi open for debate.
Okay, with that, tapos na ang natin. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, Teddy Casiño. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
to
having
Paulo Aguado for
Thank you very much.
alam mo, siyang nagre-represent ng ating karamihan yata palagay yata magnet not deterrent, no? I mean, at least from my opinion. So, you represent the majority of the people who say it could be more of a magnet.
Thank you.
I'm Gerry Cornejo. I think it's going to be a deterrent, and I have the last say. And we'll be back next week. And we'll talk about this because bitin ito, nabibitin ako rito. We will be talking more about this issue in the coming programs. Okay, meanwhile, until next week then, take care. I love you. God bless you.